Hey everybody, this is Eric here with the Colt Collectors Association. We are here in San Marcos, Texas at the 45th annual All Colt Show and meeting. This has been a fantastic show. There's so many amazing displays here. And right now I'm here with Brent and Alex. They've got a really neat display with some modern Colts, and they're going to tell us a little bit about it. Alex, you do a lot with these AR-15s. Tell us a little bit about what you've got going on here.
So primarily what me and Brent collect is going to be more of the oddity aspect of it, the prototype stuff like that. But these are all just different aspects of Colt's prototype. You have the 901 series, which is their dual caliber. You can switch out from a 308 upper or 5.56 upper. And then we have their individual carbine, which was a military prototype here, first gas piston, and then just some other stuff here. But that's pretty much what we collect is just going to be the prototype and the experimental aspect of the modern long gun, more or less.
Neat. Now, out of the prototypes, these prototypes that you have here, did any of these go into production, or were they just kind of one-off pieces?
Aspects of them did. So this went into production as what we call the 6940P. So this was the first gas piston that Colt produced. This was actually hand machined upper, so there's still machine marks on it, but aspects of that did go into production. This is a adaptation of a current production gun that would just had a different finish and barrel that the military used. And then again, this is another adaptation, but nothing of this went into production. This was a short run, and then the one on the bottom here is just a early prototype of the modern 80s style vintage.
That's really neat. Now, I noticed we've got a digital camo finish on these. Mm-hmm. What kind of finish is that?
That's actually anodizing.
Is it?
So Colt made this for the military, and this was part of their individual carbine submission on this guy here that they then adapted later on, but it was such an expensive finish that they just did not do it into the commercial marketplace. It was really just neat. Purely military.
Yeah, that's really different. It's not something that you can tell it's not Cerakoted.
Nope.
It's not painted necessarily. It's just got that different kind of different sheen, and even the the way the design is laid out just looks really different. Out of all of these, is there one that's a little bit more rare or unusual out of all these?
So, I mean, all of them are, these two are one, or these three are, actually, I'm sorry, these four are all one-offs. This is supposedly made 8 of these, but only this one is known so far. And they were supposed to make 25 of these, so 25 serial numbers were set aside, but maybe 5 or 10 guns were actually made.
Okay. Now, are all these semi-auto? Any of them full auto?
Yeah, these are all semi-automatic.
These are all semi-automatic. Mm-hmm. Did they do any of these prototypes in full auto?
They did. So the individual carbine was full auto. This is what we call a CSAS, so a compact semi-automatic sniper system. This was semi-auto, and then this guy they did make in full auto as well.
That's really neat. Yeah, this is a really neat selection. You've got some really unique ARs here, and this is what's neat about collecting Colts. Sometimes when you mention Colts, people think, oh, it's just these old cowboy guns, which it is. There's a lot of that stuff, but Colt also still makes guns, and there's a lot of AR-15s. There's a lot of modern guns out there, and it's really neat that we can still have Colt collectors that are getting into modern stuff and that are collecting some of this really unique one-off stuff that you don't see anywhere else. So this is really neat. I really appreciate you showing us these.
Absolutely.
We're going to go over to Brent here in a second, and we're going to check out some of these other prototypes. All right, Brent. So we've got some more ARs here. We've got some uppers. Looks like we've got some unfinished uppers. What do we got going here?
So when Alex and I come to a show, we like to try to share a piece of Colt long gun history, related to ARs. And when we go to each show, we try not to show the same thing twice. And so coming to this show, I decided to focus my display and some of Alex's items on Colt 6940 rifle series. And so I'm very fortunate to own some unique pieces. And what you see here are both production, prototype, and developmental examples of the 6940 series. Plus you have unique pieces like the raw forging, before it's been machined down. This middle area here is kind of a snapshot of the product progression through manufacturing. You've got the raw forging piece that's been machined down. These are some different anodizing colors that Colt's used over the years. You got a couple of prototype uppers there on the front. The rifle back here, this is a standard LE 6940 carbine. This was made from about 2009 until 2021, roughly, when Colt rebranded their LE series to the current CR series.
Okay.
Over there, you saw the Colt piston carbine that that Alex has as a prototype. This is the production LE 6940P piston carbine, and this is a prototype upper receiver. This front piece here is unique in that it was a Department of Energy contract piece. They did the first contract with Colt for the LE 6940, but a unique design feature about these guns is the folding front sight that they have. When they were first designed, the sights were real easy to flip up and flip down. Well, the Department of Energy didn't like that, so they wanted to go with the legacy fixed front sight post. So that's what makes that piece unique. There's only a handful of these out on the secondary market that I'm aware of.
That's neat. So that wasn't necessarily, was that a prototype, or was that something that was?
That was a special build.
It was a special build that was actually issued out. It was out in the wild, and then it kind of came back. And that's all, again, all of these are semi-auto as well?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's really neat. That's really neat.
These two examples up here are both from in 2012, 2013, the country of India had what was called the MCAR program, or multi-caliber assault rifle program.
Okay.
Colt made 25 prototypes for that program for testing, and this one is in 7.62 by 39, and then that's 5.56 millimeter, and I'm very fortunate to have one of each of those.
That's really neat. Is that what I'm seeing here? It looks like there's some
that's
on it.
That's some labeling that the country of India put on the upper receiver during the testing process, and that stayed on there through testing.
It's taped on, very official.
Yeah. And these guns also demonstrate some prototype stocks. That's actually a production, what's called the SCW, or subcompact weapon stock. And then the last item I have here is the Colt IAR, or individual automatic rifle, and that is something that they still produce for a lot of foreign militaries.
Really neat.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, this is really neat. A lot of people, I don't think, realize that, Colt doesn't just do a lot of just the standard stuff. They still
Correct.
do research and development. They still,
Yep.
Export stuff. They still, there's other countries that are relying on Colt, and, they really are developmental, and they're doing a lot of this stuff. So this is really neat. I heard there's also some prototype handguns here. Is that the case?
Yes, Alex has got some very neat, unique prototype handguns.
Awesome. Let's go over and check that out.
Sounds good.
All right, Alex. So we've got some handguns here. I'm really excited to see what you've got as far as prototypes.
Absolutely. So one thing I branched out from rifles aspect of it is at some point you kind of start running out of stuff to buy. So I started getting into the prototype pistol aspect of it. So this is a Colt offensive handgun. So this was made in 1992 for the Mark 23 trials that HK ultimately won. I bought this from the engineer, or one of the engineers who actually designed it, which was very cool. They made 32 guns for the actual trials, but this was a prototype predecessor to those 32 guns. Little cool piece of history there is Colt never actually intended on winning this.
Really?
So per the engineer I got it from, he had mentioned the fact that Colt just didn't expect to win, but they just took the government's money. They're like, well, hey, we'll go ahead and see if we can fix the Double Eagle as well as the Colt 2000 issues. So it does feature a Colt Double Eagle trigger system, as well as the rotating bolt of the Colt 2000. So they incorporated both of those into this gun to try to work out the kinks, because they were already in the hole for both of those programs. So they're trying to see if they can work those out.
Really?
Nothing really came out of this. So I do have the original test report from Crane, and it just went to phase 1. So they tested them out with the Knights Armament suppressor and then an Insight laser module that went on the bottom. All of those laser modules were destroyed, and I think only 2 suppressors remained. But of the 32 guns that were given to Crane for testing, only 2 are still known to exist, both in museums. And then I think there's only like maybe 4 or 5 prototypes left.
And that thing's a beast. That looks really heavy. Like it is
very heavy. Yes, it is. It's a 10-round magazine, 45, all steel. And once you got the laser module on it, as well as the suppressor, it's a definitely
pretty massive.
A tank. It is.
It's pretty massive. That's a very interesting piece. Very unusual. It's kind of interesting that you said Colt really didn't intend to do anything. So they were just kind of using it. Oh, we'll fix some of our own problems and let the government pay for it.
Exactly.
Wow.
More or less.
Wow. That, yeah, like I said, that's a hoss of a gun.
It
That's
is
massive.
It's fun to shoot too.
Have you shot it?
Oh yeah,
Really?
absolutely.
Wow.
I mean, so I have the logbook with it. So this has 23,000 documented rounds through it through the engineer's logbook. So I figured, what's another couple hundred?
Yeah, it's not going to hurt anything, is it?
Probably not.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
And then you've got some others I see over here as
I
well.
do. So these were part of the law enforcement pistol program. So of these, they made 49, and Colt in their letter state that 27 are destroyed so far that they know of. So, about 22 or so of these remain. They did make a few different versions of them. There's not really any sort of documentation as how many different versions, but I have 3 different versions here. This one they actually did utilize. This was in 1994. They did utilize a 3D printed frame.
Wow.
So that was the first time that they were actually able to do that. So you can kind of see the.
You said that was back in 94?
94.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
So you can see kind of the bridges and stuff like that. But they were primarily made in 40 Smith & Wesson. I do have, as far as Colt knows, the only 45 that was made. So this was actually, I got this one from the archives, which is kind of cool.
Wow.
So this one was made in 45. But the interesting thing about this is, again, at the time, Colt had nothing like this. So in order to cut corners, they took a Smith & Wesson mag, they cut it up, and they welded it back together, and that's why you were able to see kind of different.
I can see that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But, it's just kind of a neat little piece of Colt history. They did intend, after the ultimately the testing and everything like that failed, they did end up or did try to make a production run of it. So you have this gun here, which is actually marked model 1995, because they were ultimately going to have it on the civilian market, and they just never came to fruition.
And they look like relatively neat guns. I mean, they're kind of like Ruger / Glock. I mean, just kind of the way the grip shape.
Yeah, and that was at the time where everybody was getting into plastic frames. Colt didn't have them besides the 2000 at the time, so that's where they were trying to get into law enforcement age with the sidearm, and this was their submission to that.
Wow. That's some really interesting pieces. You guys have a fantastic collection here. Thank you so much for bringing them out. This has really been a fantastic display. Again, this is Eric with the Colt Collectors Association. If you're into old Colts, if you're into new Colts, if you're into AR-15s, if you're into prototypes, keep watching our videos. We've got all kinds of really stuff. If you're not a member of the Colt Collectors Association, head over to coltcollectors.com and join. We've got all kinds of amazing benefits. We've got a great magazine that comes out. So check out the website. It's a lot of fun. And if you can come to one of the conventions, we go all around the country. There's an annual convention every year. Definitely check us out next time. Thanks again, Alex.
Thank you.